There is probably not a single person you know who wouldn't let you drown if they were running out of air and you handed to them the oxygen tank. There's an old saying among rescue divers, a saying that sounds cruel until you understand it. They say, never let a drowning man grab you, because a drowning man doesn't see a friend. He sees a flotation device, and he will climb on top of you, push you under, and watch you sink while gasping for his next breath. I've been reading this book, The 48 Laws of Power. The second law says, never put too much trust in friends. The book paints human society like a medieval court, like something out of Game of Thrones, where alliances shift like sand, where loyalty is just a mask the convenience wears, where friends are simply enemies who haven't found their reason yet. Made me ask myself, are things really this way? At the core, made me think, if we are simply more evolved monkeys, as we often like to say, why can the other monkeys not be trusted? Why does intelligence seem to make betrayal more likely, not less? Then I thought about drowning men and air tanks. See, there's this pattern in diving accidents. It happens more often than people like to admit. A diver runs out of air. Their body offers their tank, and then something primal takes over. The suffocating diver takes the tank, and takes it, and takes it. And their generous friend never breathes again, not because they planned it, not because they chose it, but because 300 million years of evolution screamed louder than 3 decades of friendship. In Stalin's Soviet Union, torture was given free rein. The interrogators kept meticulous records, as bureaucrats tend to do. And those records revealed something remarkable. Everyone broke. Every single person, when pushed far enough, gave up names, gave up secrets, gave up everything. Well, almost everyone. There were exceptions, rare, precious, unexplainable by pure survival logic. People who allowed themselves to be tortured to death rather than betray others, perhaps driven by something almost as ancient as survival itself. The instinct to protect the genes. That force that makes a zebra stand between her foal and 3 hungry lions instead of running. That force that says, my genes matter more than my heartbeat. So we have 2 forces now. Survival and offspring, both ancient, both overwhelming, both capable of making us do things that logic cannot explain. But there might be a third force, one that's uniquely human, one that can override even these primal commands. The story, the narrative we hold about ourselves in the deepest chambers of our minds, the character we believe ourselves to be, the role we've cast ourselves in since we were old enough to dream. Let me show you what I mean. In Game of Thrones, most characters scheme, they plot, they betray. They're all drowning men looking for flotation devices. But some characters seem to exist outside this game entirely. And I think it's because their internal story is too strong to break. Consider Ned Stark. His story is honor. Honor unto death. Consider Jon Snow. His story is the hero's journey. The one who faces the true enemy. But perhaps the most fascinating example is Jaime Lannister. He is often seen as the ultimate betrayer, the man who broke his holiest vow. But if we look closer, he might be the most trustworthy man in the room, precisely because of his secret story. He killed a king to save a city. He chose to be hated by the world to be the ultimate knight in the shadows. Would Ned Stark have done that? Would Barristan Selmy? Or would they have stood proudly as the city burned? And later, this same man charges a dragon, runs into fire that would melt steel, for love, for story. Would the survival instinct have let him do that? Would 300 million years of evolution have approved? Of course not. But the story was stronger. So perhaps this is the measure of trust. Not loyalty, not promises, not history, but story. How deeply does someone believe in their own narrative? How far might they go to protect the character they've cast themselves as? Would they face bankruptcy rather than become a cheater? Would they accept prison rather than become a traitor? Would they walk into dragon fire rather than become a coward? Because here's the thing about drowning men. They're not bad people. They're just people whose survival instinct has temporarily deleted their story. The panic has wiped the hard drive. There's no narrative left. Just breathing, just living, just climbing. But someone with a strong enough story, they can be drowning and still remember who they are. They can feel their lungs burning and still refuse to push their friend under, not because survival doesn't scream at them, but because their story screams louder. Now, Here's where this gets practical, even philosophical, because we're about to run a trust experiment unlike anything in human history. Cryptocurrency is introducing something remarkable. For the first time, you can give someone complete access to your wealth with just 12 words. No bank clerks involved, no bureaucracy, no passwords that can be reset. 12 words and everything you have could vanish. Some people might find this useful. A failsafe during a crisis, a way to ensure close people can access funds if something happens. But it's also the ultimate trust exercise, because those 12 words are a test. A test of whether someone's story about themselves as a trustworthy friend is stronger than 300 million years of evolution whispering, "Take it, no one will know. Survival first." The 48 laws of power would tell you to never share those words. It is full of stories where friends become executioners. It gives examples of friends putting friends' heads on spikes, of allies declaring, "I didn't kill an old friend today, I killed a new enemy." The book sees all of human history as drowning men pulling each other under. And maybe it's right, maybe most of the time. But I wonder if there's another possibility. Maybe trust isn't about predicting whether someone will betray you. Maybe it's about reading stories, understanding what narrative someone has written themselves into, watching how they behave when no one's looking, noticing whether they protect their story even when it costs them something. If we want to know if someone can be trusted, maybe we shouldn't look at their resume or their promises. Instead, we might look at how far they are willing to go to protect their own identity. Would they go to jail to keep their story of being a loyal friend intact? Would they face bankruptcy to avoid being the villain in their own narrative? Because a person who believes deeply enough in their own honor might hold those 12 words for a lifetime and never touch them. Their story won't let them. Their internal Ned Stark won't allow it. Their inner Jaime Lannister won't let them. And a person with a weak story, or a story that's full of convenient rationalizations, they might tell themselves they're still a good friend, even as they transfer the funds, even as they explain to themselves why it was justified. It is surprisingly easy to keep calling yourself loyal while holding a spike. The 48 laws of power isn't wrong about human nature, it's just incomplete. It describes what happens when survival dominates, when the drowning reflex takes over, when the story dissolves into animal panic. But humans are strange creatures. We're the only animals who die for ideas, who sacrifice for narratives, who choose story over survival. Perhaps that's what we should look for in the people we trust. Not their promises, not their history, not even their love for us, but the strength of their story, the depth of their belief in who they are, the price they've already paid to protect their narrative. Because here's what I keep coming back to. A drowning man will grab anything that floats, will push anyone under, will watch his best friend sink while gasping for air. Not because he's bad, but because survival deleted his story. But someone with a story stronger than their survival instinct, someone who knows exactly who they are and what they'd never do, they might be drowning too. They might feel their lungs burning. They might watch their air bubbles rising toward a surface they'll never reach, and they still won't take your tank. Not because they don't want to live, but because they want to be themselves more. So, the next time you wonder whether you can trust someone, maybe the question isn't about their loyalty or their love or their promises. Maybe the question is simpler. Are they the kind of person who would still remember their story while drowning?